Great. So, hello. Welcome to Kazuhiro Soda, director, filmmaker of the Cats of Gokogu Shrine.
Right.
Soda-san, very great to meet you here.
Great to meet you.
Um, so first of all, I guess I should probably touch on the fact that it had its UK premiere last night. How
hmm
did that go?
hmm it was fantastic with a packed audience and a lot of good questions, and it was really warm and energetic
And
atmosphere.
that's
Yeah, I watched it
fantastic.
too. Yeah, I watched it with the audience, and a lot of there was a lot of laughs and sighs, and I like that. Yeah.
Well, I saw it on Monday, caught an advanced screening. It was the first film of the festival that I saw, and
Oh,
from the
really?
yes, it was. This is no hyperbole. It was one of the number one films that I had to see at the festival, and I have to say the laughter doesn't surprise me at all because from the opening frame, I had a
hmm
smile on my face. Um,
Okay.
and but by the end, there's almost like a tear in your eye for it, all of the events that you've seen. I feel it's hardly surprising that it sold out yesterday. It was, by my understanding, one of the first films, or if not the first film, to sell out at the London Film Festival. How do you feel about that?
Well, it doesn't feel like it's my film. It's not very, common. I always make observational films, and it's one of them. And it's observational films are not exactly really popular these days. So, I love them, but the public see it differently. So, it's kind of a surprise for me. Yeah, but actually, it's been like this, since we premiered the film in Berlin Film Festival this year. At every festival we attend, it sells out really fast.
I mean, that's fantastic. So you touched on it there. So let me jump ahead to ask you about observational filmmaking.
Mm,
For those who aren't familiar with the term,
right.
the film opens up with a title card to say it's observational film from you, number 10, I believe.
hmm hmm
How to you does it differ from typical documentary filmmaking, would you say?
Okay. One of the differences that I don't do any preparation before shooting. I don't do any research. I don't have any meetings with subjects or potential subjects. I don't write any synopsis or anything. I just jump into the situation, roll the camera, see what happens. And I don't set up a theme or goal before editing either. And theme is something I discover by editing, And I also do not use any music, background music, no narration, no, superimposed titles to explain the situation. So yeah, it's quite different from the tendency in the documentary filmmaking these days.
Absolutely. There's a source of patience that you need to have with film because you almost, I guess you're sitting with the subjects, you're sitting in the environment for the first time, and
Right.
your audience is joining you on that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's rewarding for that reason, right? Because people have to,
hmm
as you say, you don't use title cards. So there's a scene about 20, 30 minutes into the film where a group come in with cages to the shrine.
Mm,
And then you see a scene play out. I won't talk through what happens. People will see for themselves. But as a
right.
member of the audience, at first you're unsure of exactly what's going on. And it's
Mm,
only about 40 minutes later that someone says a throwaway line to explain what had happened. For
right.
you, I guess, in
Yeah.
that moment when you're filming that, do you make a conscious choice not to contextualize the scene right at the beginning and explain this is what's happening?
Right. Well, I carefully calculate where and when and how certain information gets conveyed to the audience because it's important. That's the job of editing, and it takes me about a year to edit the whole film.
Wow.
The reason being is because, that's the only thing I can manipulate and deal with,
Of course, yeah.
And so how do I feed the information? necessary information to the public. Yeah, that's a crucial thing. And I find if you give the information too early, the public has no time to think about, or I call it initiate the observational mode, or when we have less information, we try to get the information ourselves. It's in our nature.
Yep.
And because of that, you become more active and involved, and you are not a passive viewer anymore. So I want that to happen, to the audience. So yeah, that's something I always think about when I edit.
And that makes entire sense for my experience of the film because you're right. Rather than being a passive audience member who is absorbing information,
Mm,
it does feel, I know it's observational filmmaking, but it does feel like there is a story there. And maybe the story, 50% of the story is what you're presenting to us, and 50% is what we are bringing to the film, our
exactly.
interpretation of events, which is hugely effective.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the idea.
Do you think there is a tendency? So, just to contextualize this, my understanding, Soda-san, is that you were born in Japan and you spent a couple of decades in
Mm,
New York
right.
filmmaking as
27 years. Yeah.
wow. So is was there something from your experiences in Japan as a filmmaker before you went to New York that not clashed but set quite a line in the sand between how filmmaking is done in America? And how do you see the two as different, but also being able to learn from one another, the styles of
Mhm.
filmmaking?
Actually, I saw the difference between TV filmmaking and cinema. Because when I was in New York, the first job I got was as a TV director. I had to produce a lot of TV shows for NHK, Japanese Public Network.
Oh wow.
I directed probably 40 to 50, shows, for them,
Wow.
in about like 7 years. And the way we had to make programs was that, I had to do a lot of research before shooting, and I had to do a lot of meetings with potential subjects, and I had to write detailed scripts, which has beginning, middle, and an end, and which has shot lists, which has, narration ideas, which has like a hypothetical interviews, like I ask question like this, and then
Right.
the interviewee would answer this way, and uh, and and only after you have this blueprint, you are allowed to go and shoot.
Hmm.
And that was really, I didn't really like that.
It's the opposite of what you're describing observational filmmaking.
Exactly, exactly. And also, on TV, you have to explain everything, you have to
Hmm.
narrate, and you put sad music on sad scenes, and I didn't think an audience would be so stupid,
Yeah,
audience
unfortunately.
would, yeah. So, when I started making my own films, I wanted to do the opposite. And I came up with this 10 commandments of filmmaking, I have ten rules to follow, which is, I can read it.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah, yeah, I don't remember by heart, so I can. So number one, no research. Yeah, no research before shooting. Number two, no meetings with subjects. Number three, no scripts to write. And number four, roll the camera yourself. Number five, shoot as long as possible. And number six, cover small areas deeply. In the case of the Cats of Gokogu Shrine, I focused on this very small area, the Gokogu Shrine,
Yeah.
and I don't think I went out of 200 meters radius,
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Because, to make good observation, you have to limit your scope, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And number seven, do not set up a theme or goal before editing, because theme is something to be discovered, And number eight, no narration, superimpose titles or music because I want the audience to observe the film
Yeah.
and make their own, interpretations. And number nine, use long takes. And number 10, pay for the production yourself.
Yeah, it's an absolute labor of love. It's all in and it's all your decision making throughout the whole
Yeah,
process.
exactly, exactly. And we are very independent economically. We don't have to rely on, external source of income.
Yeah,
And we pay for the production and we sell the film to distributors and we get box offices, percentages of box offices. And that's how we live. And we keep going and we make another film using the money too.
from the
So
previous. Yeah, that's fantastic.
yeah, yeah.
Soda-san, maybe we can go back a little bit just to set the scene for some people who either have seen the film and are coming to the interview or haven't seen the film yet. So the setting is, as you say, the Gonkoku Shrine, which is in a location called Ushimado. Is that right?
Yeah.
So what was it about that location in particular that, as you say, you have all of these commandments, which is no research, no planning, no themes, etc.
Mm.
So what was it that made you think, well, I want to turn my camera on that location and its inhabitants?
Okay. Uh, we used to live in New York for 27 years, but during the pandemic, we decided to relocate ourselves to Ushimado. We wanted to change our lifestyle, I think. And there are so many cats in Ushimado. Yeah, and we love cats.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I didn't want to ask you, Soda-san, but we're cat lovers on this end too. So
Yes,
excellent.
yes. So, we became friends with the local cats living in Wishimado outside. And especially in Gokogu Shrine, there are many, stray cats
Yeah, there really
living.
are. Yeah.
Yeah. And but there are people who like cats, who take care of cats, but also there are people who don't really like them. And they are also they complain about the poop, they leave behind.
They do. Yeah.
And yeah, so we had to kind of, I mean, they had to kind of come up with some sort of a solution to reduce the number of the cats. And that's why they started doing this TNR, trap, neuter, and release program. And Kyoko, my wife and producer, she was asked to help that process.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So I casually started filming her doing that. I
Oh,
didn't really think about really turning it into a film, but I ended up, staying at the Gokogu Shrine for about a couple of days with a
yeah.
camera. And then I noticed, oh, there are not only the cats, but there are people who are coming in and going out, coming in, going out. And some people are doing gardening, some people are, taking taking care of the cats, some people are, cleaning as a volunteer, and it it looked like a really interesting place to stay and keep going.
Yeah.
So I ended up shooting for almost a year, 2 years actually.
Wow. So was the TNR process that you mentioned there, was that the first footage that you just accidentally shot of the film, or was that sort of shot before you did anything officially?
Yeah, it was the second time at the Gokogu
Oh,
Shrine.
right. Wow.
But so yeah, so I didn't get to shoot the first one, but we shot the second one. Yeah.
Right. You mentioned seeing all the people come to the shrine. That's a really profound experience when you're watching the film because the access point is, I'm probably not wrong in saying, is you're looking for cats. So you're
Mm.
seeing all this wonderful footage of cats, and I think whether you are a cat lover or not, you appreciate the
Mm.
visuals and the experience and the scene setting of it all. But as you say, we start to meet some of these people who are just planting planting seeds,
Uh-huh.
cleaning the steps,
Uh-huh.
feeding the cats, and you see this great humanity which lives side by side, coexisting with the cats in this really quite peaceful and tranquil way. There
Mm.
was a great sense of kindness that
Mm.
came from the community, even
Mm.
though, as you say, not everyone
Right.
likes cats. There was this very serene, peaceful feel to the whole film.
Mm.
I wonder if there is perhaps a misconception because
Mm.
in Japanese culture, the understanding is that cats are quite significant
Mm.
in Japanese culture. And maybe
Right.
the misconception is that, well, everyone in Japan loves cats, but it becomes quite
Mm.
clear in the film that there is this conflicted relationship.
Right.
How, with your film, do you see this as a sort of snapshot of the wider picture in Japan between humans and cats, or is it quite unique to Ushimado and this shrine and the setting there?
Mm. It could be quite unique or limited to rural areas where traditional human relationship remains, you know. In the big cities, probably the picture will be quite different. Japanese release will start next week, and I did a lot of interviews with critics and journalists in Japan, in
Right.
Tokyo, and they all said, if it happened in a big city like in Tokyo, probably people would quarrel, like fight each other and scream each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it didn't happen in this film.
No.
And they quietly agree that they don't agree.
Yeah.
And I think that's a wisdom, I think, for people to have developed in this very little community, where if you become um, unfriendly with anybody in the community, you'll be forced to live in a very awkward situation, because it's such a small community.
Absolutely.
You see them every day.
Yeah.
So, it's the almost the opposite of this, global tendency where we have, good guy and bad guy, and we try
Hmm.
to beat up the other side, like we
Yep.
always separate enemy and friends,
Exactly.
and yeah, and that's the and as a consequence, we have many conflicts, like sometimes very, very violent, consequences,
Hmm.
and I think I saw a very different way of dealing with conflicts or issues in Wishimada, which probably have been a typical or prevalent way for people to deal with this kind of issue,
Hmm.
and which I kind of neglected for a long time. I am a guy who was brought up in the countryside, but I wanted to escape and
Right.
to go to the big city. I went to Tokyo and then to New York, and
Hmm.
so in New York, you are like you are always concerned about who's winning, who's losing, and
Yes.
yeah, and then you beat up your opponents and enemies, and
Yeah.
so
Survival
for
of the
me.
fittest.
Yeah, exactly. And that's like, the opposite. And
Yep.
for me, it was so refreshing and revealing. And so I wanted to depict that, in this film.
I think that's also why I connected to it so much because I've lived in London my entire life. London is not dissimilar to New York, very bustling, very cutthroat at moments, but also a
Mm,
great sense of vibrancy. But
mm,
the way of life as depicted in the film is so harmonious despite the differences, as you say. And
mm,
as a cat lover, when
mm,
you suddenly encounter some of the characters in your film and you ask them quite bluntly, you say, how do you feel about the cats? And
mm,
because you've spent 15, 20 minutes with them in the film,
mm,
you you've grown close to them, if that makes
Right.
sense, as a filmmaker and as an audience member of audience,
Yeah.
and you really want them to say yes, I like the cats,
Mm.
and then they say not really, and you think, oh no, but then you hear them talking, and then you
Mm.
see them with their counsel, and you're like, this doesn't make you a bad person. This makes
Right.
you a layered, textured person. And
Right.
as an audience member, I hadn't thought about the impact of the cats for you,
Mm. Mm.
despite loving cats myself.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, out of your 10 commandments of filmmaking, one of them that is missing, which I guess you would see in a lot of documentary filmmaking,
Mm.
is to not intervene, I
Mm.
guess, while
Mm.
filmmaking. But
Mm.
there's a repeated sequence in the film where I believe it's where you're staying in the town. A ginger cat keeps coming to your door, coming
Attacking.
inside. Right, very cute. You have to
Yeah.
chase him out a couple of times, quite
Right.
quite confident. But there is a
Mm.
scene where a typhoon
Mm.
comes to town,
Mm.
and he's meowing at your door, and you let him in, and it's I guess it's probably in the whole film the one time we really see your fingerprints
Right.
as a filmmaker, because you make a conscious choice there, which actually adds to the kindness and the warmth of human spirit in that setting. How
Mm.
difficult was it for you while making the film not to involve yourself in certain
Mm.
scenarios, particularly with the cats, I guess?
Ah. Actually, there was no difficulties because I allow myself to be involved in the situation.
Uh-huh.
It's okay because I call my films observational films, but I always say that all the observation is has to be a participant observation
Hmm.
because you try to observe the world and you are always changing the world because you are there because of your presence, right?
Sure.
So when you film somebody or some situation, you can only film the world which is already changed by your presence, meaning you are observing the world which includes myself.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So yeah. So with that concept, it's not a taboo or rule breaking to get involved.
Hmm.
And in fact, in this film, we already decided to live in this community, right? So it's our community too. And
Yeah.
it was so natural for me to have my wife and producer Kyoko as one of the characters in the film. And I
So
had
that's
no,
that's fascinating. I had no idea that she was
yeah,
one of the
yeah,
people in the film.
yeah.
Fantastic.
She's actually almost like a main character. I mean, she was the one who was, trapping the cats, and
Right.
she
Okay.
was saying that she she doesn't feel like doing this, and she's my wife, and
Wow.
so I had no problem including her as almost like a main character in the film. And so in this case, the filmmaker and the subjects or characters, the boundaries is so blurry, and
Hmm.
it's kind of like interchangeable almost,
Yeah.
and it's okay. And in a sense, dynamics between the subjects and the filmmaker becomes a sort of like a almost like a dynamic relationship, you can depict.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
What about some of the other locals, people like the gardener, people who are sitting in the sort of community setting,
Mm,
whether they're eating the meal or whether they're discussing some of the
mm,
issues that the town faces? How did they
mm.
react to you with the camera there? Did they act quite natural, or were there a lot of questions and awkwardness?
They were natural, I thought, and it doesn't really matter to me if they are natural or not. If some people act naturally in front of the camera, and some people become awkward,
Hmm.
and it shows their characters, right? So
Yes.
I don't
Yeah.
really try to get them relaxed or being natural in front of the camera. I just let them, who they are,
Do their
and
thing.
yeah, and do the thing, and I just record, whatever they present themselves to the camera.
Yeah.
And so I have no problem either way. But I think they work quite natural. But at the same
Yes.
time, it was a taboo subject in a sense, because the community is equally divided between cat lovers and
Hmm.
non-cat lovers. And if we talk about cats, they were always constantly like becoming like a kind of awkward, and also like they were kind of seeking or trying to find out which way we are.
Yeah. Yeah. Are you pro cat or are you pro the locals
Yes,
here?
pro or anti.
Yeah.
And and so just to make this film was kind of like a taboo breaking thing. And so
Sure.
until we organized a local screening in Ushimada for people who appeared in the film, they were kind of apprehensive, what kind of film,
I'm
it's going
sure.
to be. And but we had a screening in April. We invited everybody. Most of them are neighbors, 70 of them.
Yeah.
They're all neighbors. They came to the screening and watched the film together. And they were happy leaving the screening. Both cat lovers and no, non-cat lovers.
Yeah.
And since then, and, they became much more at ease with talking about cats, and I'm really glad about that.
You're absolutely right. Talking about any tricky subject or taboo topic is normally the key to unlocking the solution to it, right? Um,
Yeah,
and you're 100% right in terms of cat lovers and anti-cat people. I think this film satisfies all because this is not, to make it clear, this is not just, oh, here, look at all these lovely cats. That is absolutely
right.
not what your film is about. It's
Mm,
much richer and much deeper than that. And
mm,
I think it appeals to a wide section of society and the world.
mm.
One thing I really wanted to ask you, because this is one of the key questions I had when I came out with the film at the end.
Yeah,
There is
yeah.
a brief scene where a regular visitor to the town, is feeding the cats, and you start talking to him, and you reflect the fact that the locals have these concerns about the cats pooping in
Mm,
places and it being an issue. And he
mm,
says, don't promote it. Don't,
mm.
he says, don't really talk about this place. And I thought,
Right,
well, that was a bold decision by you to include that in the film, because it's
right.
essentially someone saying maybe you shouldn't be making this film
Yes,
because more people are going to
yes.
come here. I wondered how you felt about that and
Uh,
how you navigated that
Right,
afterwards.
right, right. Yeah, he was saying that, if you publicize this place, as being a place for cats where you can see a lot of cats, people visit the shrine, some people might abandon the cats.
Hmm.
So, he was, kind of, saying to me, no, don't reveal, where it is.
Yeah.
And, I put up the name Gokogu Shrine as a title. And
Hmm.
so I'm quite doing the opposite of what he was suggesting.
Yes.
So yeah, of course, I was quite apprehensive about, his reaction. We invited him to the screening as well.
Oh, excellent.
Yes, and he saw the film, and he seems to have changed his mind a little bit. He
Hmm.
said, "Well, maybe if you see this film, it's clear, that, people wouldn't want to abandon cats there,
No.
or wouldn't want to, abduct cats there,
No.
you know. So, yeah, it's probably a good thing." And he said that.
Yeah.
And so in the end, I think it's okay. And I agree with him. Yeah, it's true that to be famous is a problem.
Yes.
And you attract a lot of attention, sometimes unwanted attentions, and it could pollute. pollute the environment, pollute the
Hmm.
discourse, and it's risky. But at the same time, the only way to advance understanding, and advance, kindness to each others, is to show how, cats and people are living there,
Exactly.
and share it, share the same experience through the film. So that's what I believed, and that's what I tried to do with the film. So, you know, um, of course, I share the same concerns, but at the same time, I wanted to do this film with the name, the Gokogu Shrine.
Of course, yeah. I suppose would I, not to put words in your mouth, but as you say, you don't go in with themes or goals before the
Mm,
film starts. Would you
right.
say perhaps that's what you take most from this film by the end of it? It's this kindness and understanding and cohabitation that
Mm.
is the solution to a situation like this.
That's one of the things, I think, one of the themes I think the film has.
Yeah,
And also it's about the cycle of nature, cycle of weather, cycle of a season, cycle of a life and death. And
absolutely.
yeah, I think, what a film can convey to the audience is an experience,
Sure.
um, people could experience as if, they were thrown into this, Gokogu Shrine for 2 years or maybe for a year,
Hmm.
and spend the time there and witness a lot of things, and then, leave,
Yeah,
and through that experience, what to think of and what kind of interpretations they have is up to the audience, each audience, each viewer. And
absolutely.
yeah, so yeah, the what was most important was, how can I convey my experience and also Cat's experience and people's experience in a cinematic form,
Hmm. Yeah.
you know.
And you absolutely did that. I've never seen a depiction on screen that had so much humanity and care for cats on the same level as the human beings. It was really touching, actually.
Thank you.
Soda-san, unfortunately, we are running out of time, and I'm conscious that you have other commitments to go to. So I wanted to just wrap up by
Okay.
saying you've got another screening tomorrow night, Sunday the 13th,
Hmm.
which I believe is already sold out also.
Right.
But if anyone is able to get rush tickets on the door, they can try. Do you? I understand there's some news that's come out from Europe just this morning about distribution in some areas in Europe. Do you know how people will be able to find your latest film in the coming months in the UK particularly?
I think our sales agent Shadow is still working on the UK distribution, and we are hopeful that we will be able to find one. And
Great. I'm sure you will with a film like this. I can't see that being a struggle.
yeah, please push.
Yeah, absolutely. Soda-san, thank you so much. I really appreciate you giving us some time. It's a fantastic film. We encourage everyone to go out and watch it as soon as you can. And for those who are going to be seeing it at the London Film Festival tomorrow night, you are in for an absolute treat. Soda-san, thank you so much, and
Thank you so much, Ben-san.
I hope you enjoy your lunch.
Yes, yes, I will. I will. And you too.
Thank you.